And good morning to you. It's about 8 minutes after the hour on this Tuesday, January the 2nd. Man, I'm telling you, May, it was like we were burning up. And June, it's just some incredible weather. Out walking the dog this morning, and it was in the low 60s. It might have been in the 50s. But the high today should be around 79, so we may not even get up to 80 degrees today, which is great. You know, you can fight off those utility companies. Just turn everything off. You don't have to run that central air or whatever you're doing, man. It just, it's good. It's great. Fantastic. And we, of course, we have on today, we have our county commissioner chair, former Senator Kirk Deviere. He's in with us, and a number of things we need to be talking about. But I was just talking to Reverend Carl, who's our producer, and I said, man, what would you think the number one cause of death, according to the Centers for Disease Control, of youngsters 1 to 4? What would you think, Kurt?
1 to 4. I don't know. That's a,
right.
I mean,
would you guess?
I would say crib death. It was before.
I know that's what
one.
he said, right? 1 to 4, though. Now, this is according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, because I was talking about it with a lawyer friend of mine, a case we're working on, drowning.
Oh yeah,
The number one cause of death is drowning.
Wow.
And you know what I'm saying? You know, a kid, you don't need that deep of water for a kid to drown in. But, you know, I just say for you individuals who have pools and your kids can be around water, just be careful. I mean, you know, I just...
ponds around houses, little lakes.
Right.
I mean, those kind of stuff, they're, you know, especially during the summer, they're out there playing in, you know, all these different areas. There's not too many lakes around here, but there's a few that people can play in.
Right, that's true.
We lost a lot of the water parks we used to have.
And I know up in Harnett County, where I'm from, you know, the Cape Fear River runs through there. And so those kids be out there on the river. And invariably we have youngsters that get out there to play in the water. And every now and then you have one of those bad incidents.
Oh, yeah.
Something bad happens. But anyway, look, guys, this summer, just be safe. Youngsters are out of school now. Some of them are going
First week, well, second week for some.
Right, summer programs and things of that nature. And, you know, I wish I had a job for them. But it's not anything I'm engaged in right now that I could hire some youngsters. But, you know, just be safe out there and careful this summer. And particularly when they're walking through neighborhoods with not anything to do, I hope that they don't engage in anything criminal behavior. Yeah. I ain't trying to tell the sheriff what to do, but, you know, I'm on 295 and I see sheriff's deputies out there writing tickets. I'm like, look, I got all that, but you probably need to let city traffic control and the state highway patrol be out there writing tickets on 295. You know, if I was sheriff, I'd had them cars rolling through these subdivisions, man, because, you know, you can't steal something, but be walking down the street when, you know, with cop sees you, you know, but, you know, it just, that's my take. But, you know, there's a lot
you need to get the sheriff on here. You should have the sheriff on your show.
That's true. Well, the one leaving, well, look, I'll let the election get over with first, and then we'll deal with that.
Yeah, you know, but hey, you know, it's just still an everyday thing. He's still got a job to do till the end of December.
That's true, too. But anyway, though, equal time. But anyway, still.
He's not on the ballot. So
that's
not equal
You're
time.
Right. He's right. He's not on the ballot. Right. That's a good point. Yeah. But we drag him, man. He might not like my advice, though. But anyway, how's it going for you, man?
It's good. We had our meeting yesterday. We had our, you know, it's budget cycle, as you know. So it's budget season. So June is our May-June is our big budget month for county commissioners. We've got to move to an approved budget before July 1 by law. A balanced budget, by the way.
Right.
So yesterday we had 2 public hearings. Normally part of the requirement is to do a public hearing. We decided we wanted to do two. We wanted to make sure the public had a lot of opportunities, or two opportunities to come in and speak to us in a public hearing format. So we did one at our morning meeting at 9 a.m. So we had kind of a short meeting, not a lot of business per se, but more time for our public hearing. We did that, and then we had a special meeting last night at 7 p.m. For another public hearing to allow, just strictly for public hearing for the budget, allow people to come, give their opinions, state their, what they'd like to see, or, just speak to the budget. So we had that process yesterday. We've got a series of workshops, budget workshops that we are doing, or work sessions that we'll continue to do. Our next one's on June 8th. And then we have a series, I think we have 3 or 4 more. We've already had one post the budget release, and then prior to the budget being released by the staff. Remember, this is a draft budget, so the staff has worked on this budget for about 6 or 8 months, worked with all the department heads, kind of worked through our priorities. We gave some direction in an early budget workshop with the board. And then the staff released their version of the budget, and now we're working through that to see if there's any changes that commissioners want to make as we move through it over the next few weeks. So a lot of work to be done still on the budget. Each of these work sessions, we've got a schedule on what we're going to address, which piece of the budget we're going to talk about. Commissioners are encouraged to, provide any questions ahead of time so we can get them answered at that meeting, or if there's questions that come up at that meeting, we get them answered by staff in between the meetings and then reviewed at the following meeting. But just want to make sure that the commissioners have their time to dig into the budget, whether it's on comp and personnel, whether it's on different programs, whether it's on how we're doing our capital improvements and the different funds that we have and how things work. So there's a lot that goes into it. And our commissioners are, our commission is working hard on this budget.
Sure. So now, I guess it's the proposed budget by the county manager.
That's right.
Is with no increases on taxpayers, correct?
That's right. That's right.
So, good question.
Property flat, no increase in property tax, stays at 49.9.
If there were, sorry about that. If there were an increase,
there's not going to be an increase.
It's not going to be an increase, but still, when we start talking about a 1 cent, because I know what 1 cent increase means for the city, that's 2.4 million.
$4 million.
So it'd be $4 million for 1 cent. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And here's what's going on, Troy. So this is what makes this budget really difficult in a lot of ways. And anytime I talk about the budget this time, it's so you look at what's happening in the economy right now. We've kind of uncertainties out there. So we're seeing flat or declining sales tax over the last year, and you're seeing that across the state in a lot of ways. Our property taxes, we just did the reeval, just kind of got them settled. So you're not going to see a lot of growth in the property tax, based on industry coming aboard or new houses coming aboard, maybe a little bit here and there, but that's basically flat. But what you see on the other side is, just like every household is feeling right now, you're feeling those pressures of the economy. So we're seeing for our workforce increase in, what we're doing on healthcare, just pure healthcare costs, not changing anything, just the increase in overall cost of the benefit. When you look at that piece of it, if you're going to do any kind of cost of living adjustment based on where inflation is, just to make sure that we are taking care of the workforce that takes care of our residents across the county. You've also got downward pressures that are coming from the federal and state government. So let's just say about $3 million when you look at H.R. 1 impacts and some other impacts at the state level, about 3 to 3.5. So you've got more than a penny, let's just say $5-6 million of just additional expenses that you have to find when your revenues are flat. So, and we told our manager during our budget workshop, we don't want to see a tax increase. Like either we want we want no tax increase, or we want a reduction by a penny or 2 pennies. Based on where the revenue picture is, that becomes very difficult. But you've got to absorb that $6 million of expenses in your existing revenue. So that means you're looking for efficiencies across the other, across the organization as a whole. So it's doing things like, there's some confusion around in the proposed budget. It recommends some positions being, it says eliminated or removed, but it's really unfunded. So what that means is these are vacant positions. Nobody's losing their job, but we allocate dollars to those vacant positions.
Sure, right.
In case they get hired, but they've been vacant for a while. So we've unfunded those positions, so that frees up that revenue. Nobody's losing their job. There's not anybody losing their job. We're just unfreezing that revenue. So we're pulling that revenue back so that we can, and we're doing that across, across different departments. That's one way, but you have to find a way to, and it's probably more than $6 million. I'm just giving you kind of round numbers of how do you move those, just those additional costs because of the economy or because of, mandates coming from outside of our control that come down to us that now we have to fund. Before we do, with no increase in revenue. So you have to look for efficiencies, which is good. I mean, every organization should look for efficiencies year over year and look for ways, look for things that aren't working, look for how you, resize your organizations. But, some of those vacated positions that we're unfunding are in DSS. So that's bringing up a whole nother conversation. People are saying, oh, that's part of, the move on DSS that the board was looking to do with this reorganization. And that's not the case at all. We were not talking about consolidation or reorganization of DSS or health right now. We're focused on the budget. Those are discussions between department heads and management about, slots that are vacant positions as well as ones that are funded and unfunded. And we're not eliminating the line, so we're not eliminating the job itself. That would be a totally different thing. This is just positions are vacant. We're not going to allocate dollars against a vacant position.
Yeah, we call lap salaries.
Yeah, lap hours. I try to keep it.
Right.
Yeah, I try to keep it in layman's terms a lot of times when we explain it, so it can become very confusing if you're not used to the budget process.
So the bottom line for the county budget is
the total dollar amount. It's about $656 million with all funds. So flat keeping the tax rate at 49.9. The proposed budget right now has a 2% COLA for our employees. And we know that inflation is running above 3%, so some will argue that's not enough. But again, we've got to look at what's within our means. We've got to look at, when you look at over 70%, when you combine school and social and health and human services, DSS and health department, I mean, you got about 70%, almost 80% of your budget right there between the two, over 70% of your budget right there. So we've got to look at the additional requests from the school system for new construction and maintenance, which we know we need to do. We've got to invest in the schools. We've got to look at their operational requests different as well. They made a operational request that it's unfortunate. I wish we'd had more conversations with them before they approved their budget, but they didn't. And I think there's some things that they could do differently, understanding the overall economic revenue picture. But we'll work through those to make sure that we are doing the things we need to do at the school system so they operationally can function and retain their employees, just like we're working to retain our workforce, because we've got to invest in our workforce as well as the school system's workforce as well as the sheriff's workforce. Because remember, school budget, we allocate dollars over there, no line item veto, so they ask us for dollars, we allocate those dollars. We want to put some accountability strings on it. And then with the sheriff's office, we do have some line item veto, but we normally look at how we fund that office as well.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that came up of late years, last year before, was the student resource officer issue.
Yeah, a lot of that is funded, that's funded in some different ways through the states, but that gets broken out. So if the school board contracts with the sheriff's office or now with the municipal police departments for those SROs.
Right, because they initiate their contract themselves.
Yeah, that's right. But you know, where folks like Hope Mills had issues is, you know, they had some startup costs, and that's not really factored in. That wasn't factored into the cost of that contract, so they had to absorb some costs. But whereas Fayetteville PD may have had some additional capacity, they probably had some startup costs as well. I don't know what they were, but I'm sure, you know, when you take over a program like that, you're going to have some startup costs, whether it's outfitting, you know, the officers or additional vehicles or whatever the equipment may be. But there's some costs associated with that as well. So.
Right. So, you know, with all of that, there is this thing in the legislature about taxes and the citizens being able to vote on that. Can we talk about that? You know what I mean? Didn't that make it through committee?
I'm not sure where. I'm not sure where.
They want a statewide vote by the citizens on
the property tax.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That went through. That went through both the House and the Senate, and it can't be vetoed by the governor because it's a constitutional amendment.
Right. So that would be on the ballot.
It'll be on the ballot, but you know, people talk a lot of reasons why, you know, you put that out there. You know, you never want to handcuff counties. You know, we have some concerns at our level, but I think if you're managing your tax dollars responsibly and you're doing the things that you need to do, you're probably never gonna be impacted by that constitutional amendment. So like last time when we had the reevaluation, the big thing is the gap that you're seeing when you have a reeval and then people don't lower the tax rate below the revenue neutral, and so there's a large impact to the property owners. We stayed. If you took the model that the constitutional amendment is speaking to.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, exactly what is the model?
It's a percentage increase, and I don't know all the specific details off the top of my head.
But generally speaking, in November, the citizens would be voting on what?
They're going to be voting on a constitutional amendment to cap the amount of percentage increase that counties can move their property tax.
Okay.
In layman's terms.
Right.
And so on the you know, you tell somebody we're going to cap your property tax, what's the first thing you're going to say, Troy? You're going to say, great. And most people would say that. But when you look at the impacts and you look at, you know, the flexibility that local government should have to set property tax values, I understand what the state's trying to do. They want to put some guardrails in place. But you're also handcuffing local government to be able to, you know, do the things they need to do to, you know, fund schools and fund infrastructure and fund public safety and mental health. All these things that have been passed down, a lot of these have been passed down from the feds and the states, and now they're telling us, hey, you can only do X. Now, we've been responsible here, and if you look at our last evaluation and reevaluation last year and the way we set our tax rate, I mean, we went 6 cents below revenue neutral. And so we were very conservative and responsible with the tax dollars. And what this constitutional amendment is trying to prevent wouldn't have impacted us at all, because we were way under the percentage that they would have, that they're trying to cap. So while it won't really impact us, it's still, you don't know what's going to happen in the out
True.
years. And it's, I know I have my, you know, I have my thoughts on why I think they're putting that in place. It'll drive some voter turnout potentially. But also my concern is, you know, you don't want to take local government control. You don't want big government taking local government control. You want to keep, especially when you talk about tax rates, you want to keep that closest to the people as you can, because I mean, that's how it's affected.
Sure, but question before we go to the break. Got about 3 minutes for the break. Now, but see, I think one of the challenges that citizens have is this. Okay, so if all your resources or your tax revenue is coming from residential property owners, that's a strain when on the other side, you know, you don't have the industry
Agree.
that's there.
It's a problem we have here.
That's my point.
Yeah.
So I'm saying it's just that. So, you know, and then as soon as we get something, people trying to run it off. You know what I mean? I think you and I both supported Sansom Farms being here. Some people ran that down the street.
Yep.
About 18 miles away, I guess, something like that. And all that revenue went down there with them. And so, you know.
Yeah, we cannot grow an economy, and quite frankly, I think we're seeing it this year with our property tax revenues. You can't grow an economy on residential growth. It has to be,
Right.
it has to be industrial. It has to be business growth, corporate growth. I mean, we have to kind of see that balance. And you know, while we've had some wins, you also, when you get those wins, sometimes there's incentives tied to those wins, and so now you're not seeing property tax. You're not seeing that those taxes come for 10, 15, in some cases 20 years. So now we're using the infrastructure, using the systems, bringing more people into our community, using our schools, using our roads, using our health departments, DSS,
Right.
and not receiving additional property tax, unless they are coming in and owning homes. But if we don't have the infrastructure to build a home, they're going to go live in Harnett or Hoke County because, or well, maybe not Hoke now because they've got issues over there too on infrastructure. But they're going to go to another county to live.
Right.
So now we lose the benefit of the property tax from the industry side, but also the property tax from the residential side. So it's a difficult process.
That's
It's
what I'm
almost
saying.
chicken before the egg.
Right. Well, we can't be running off industry. Now, I understand you want safe industry, but we can't be running industry off. But look,
That's right.
We're going to go to a break,
All right.
come back, want to chat a little bit more about that because, you know, you and the mayor were here. I think we were talking about, you know, we're going to lose Goodyear. I think next year, that's what they're saying.
Yep.
And so.
But no change in their posture as of yet.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And so, you know, but that's 1,700 jobs with about 60 to 7% of them living here.
Mm-hmm.
That certainly impacts us. And
and I know we'll talk about it after the break, but just because if we do this right, we transition to other jobs, we don't lose those residents.
Right. I
The
agree.
key is, not losing that industrial property tax
Right, that's
base.
what I'm saying, right.
And so we're aggressively looking at, what do we need to do that? And how do we need to recruit another industry in and around that, or to look at the revenue that we receive from that industry, the tax revenue.
Sure. Well, look, Studio C at 2520 Murchison Road here, WIDU Widu flagship station, 1600 AM 99.7. We'll be back for more following this break.
Shelby police officer at the center of a viral video showing him punching a woman during an arrest attempt was taken into custody after being fired from the department. U.S. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins visited Eastern North Carolina on Monday to discuss the agricultural economy and labor cost. She was joined by acting U.S. Labor Secretary Keith Sonderling for a producer roundtable in New Bern. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is set to face a litany of questions about the Trump administration's fragile and stalling diplomatic efforts around the world when he appears for back-to-back hearings on Capitol Hill for the first time since the Iran war began. Senate Republicans are meeting to discuss next steps in a standoff at the White House. Discussion comes after the Justice Department said it would comply with a court order pausing the implementation of a $1.7 billion settlement fund that was designed to compensate President Trump's political allies. Mike Traley, NCN News.
I'm Jamie Monticelli, WIDU Radio News. The city of Fayetteville says join us for a night of friendly competition as the fire and police team takes on Fort Bragg at the United Way Classic. This is June 12th at 7:05 p.m. at the Crown Coliseum. It is hosted by United Way of Cumberland County. This exciting matchup celebrates the men and women who serve the community while supporting a great cause. Tickets are $10. Fayetteville's Safe Streets and Roads for All Public Survey closes on Sunday, June 7th. Whether you bike, walk, or drive, make sure your experiences and priorities are heard as the city develops a safety plan of action for the community. There is a link to that survey up on the city's Facebook page. A reminder from North Carolina Emergency Management, hurricane season has arrived. That started on June 1st. It only takes one storm to change everything. If you are not signed up for local emergency alerts, now is the time. From WIDU Radio, I'm Jamie Monticelli.
This morning starting out feeling pretty refreshing out there. The low humidity is going to take us through the next several days. For today, it's a mix of clouds and sunshine and high temperatures in the mid to upper 70s, so below average for early June. Overnight lows challenging records. We could drop into the upper 40s in parts of the area. Then as we head into the afternoon Wednesday, highs low to mid 80s under a mostly sunny sky, and overnight lows dropping back down into the 50s Thursday morning. I'm meteorologist Chris Michaels in the NCN Weather Center.
It's time again for your conference, CCFM Conference 2026, Wednesday, June 24th through Saturday, June 27th at the Florence Center, Florence, South Carolina. We will welcome Apostle Joshua Giles, Pastor T. Renee Glenn, Dr. Darius Daniels, Pastor John F. Hanna, Bishop Melvin Lambert, Bishop Bobby Hilton, and our psalmists, Pastor Smokey Norfolk, Pastor Wendy Wyatt, Pastor Naomi Rain, Pastor Lillian Lloyd. Yes, this is your conference. CCFM Conference 2026 at the Florence Center. Admission is free, but registration has major advantages. For more information, go to ccfmnation.org, ccfmnation.org. You don't want to miss the King's Summit CCFM Conference 2026, June 24th through the 27th. Come hungry for God's presence.
Remember the rotary phone? Well, soon that's what people are going to ask about gas-powered cars. And every day we see videos of robots becoming more and more like us. Welcome to the future. At Fayetteville State University, we believe that anything really can happen. So wherever it is that you want to go, we've got a program for that. Visit Fayetteville State University and find out how we're preparing students just like you for what comes next. Fayetteville State University. Are you in?
Hi, I'm Mitch Colvin, president of Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. For over 50 years, our family has provided professional services with dignity, compassion, and respect with families during a time of need. We realize funeral services are as unique as those we're honoring. We offer a variety of affordable, quality services tailored to meet each family's needs, specializing in burial and cremation services. Proudly servicing Cumberland, Robeson, Hoke, Harnett, Bladen, and surrounding counties from 2 locations, 2010 Murchison Road, Fayetteville, 1904 Elizabethtown Road, Lumberton. For more information, visit our website, www.hmcolvin.com.
Unity Picnic in the Park. Join me, Councilwoman Brenda McNair, in Communities for the 4th Annual Unity in the Park. Celebration on Sunday, June 7, 2026, from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Lake Rim Park in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Experience a day of joy and camaraderie as we celebrate our vibrant community. Delight in live music from local bands, engage in a kickball tournament, or explore our artisan market featuring unique handcrafted goods. Savor delicious offerings from gourmet food trucks and enjoy family-friendly activities in our kids' zone. Learn from our firefighters and police officers interacting with the community.
about 37 minutes after the hour now. We are in the second half of this hour with Commissioner Chair Kirk Deviere discussing the budget. So, well, I'm glad I got that out of the way. 1 cent with you guys is $4 million.
That's right.
1 cent with the city is
roughly
2.4
$4 million. It's a little bit more, about 4.1. So.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, so when people say, "Oh, it's only a penny,"
it's
$4 million penny.
Find $4 million, and that's difficult.
Right. So we're talking about bringing industry here. Where are we still right now with this whole thing with the data centers? I know you guys had hearings on that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I know the city had the city had some activity around that last night. And I don't know the exact outcome. I know their meeting went late. I think there was some decisions made around how the city was moving forward, but I don't want to speak for the city.
Sure,
so I don't.
Right. Mm-hmm.
On the county's perspective, we had our public hearing on our moratorium, which is an ordinance in layman's terms, but. We got some feedback on that. We had some other legal questions because these moratoriums are starting to become challenged legally because it's really a legal document in a lot of ways. And so our attorney and team are working through that. We should get an update on it next week at our work session on where we are. But for us, we wanted to make sure not only the moratorium, but what are we doing during the moratorium? So staff is putting some additional information together around what does that timeline look like? What are we doing during the moratorium? As we're working towards an ordinance, we've already directed our joint planning commission for staff to work with the joint planning commission, which is made up of municipalities across the community, and is the right way in the process that ordinances normally get updated, and that's all this is updating the ordinance to provide those guardrails. So, what does that process look like that we're going to do during the moratorium? How long is that moratorium going to be? Hopefully we'll get into some additional conversations at our work session so that we can continue to move that forward.
Right. So, I wouldn't say that I hate to dive into this, but I need to.
All right.
It's just doing my job too. We talk about all this stuff, and when you first got on the board, even before you got on the board, we talk a lot about our status in this state.
Tier 1.
Yeah, we're Tier 1. What does that look like? What is it going to take? You've been there. You notice things. What do you think it's going to take to get us out of Tier 1? Obviously, I don't think that one governmental entity, it has to be multiple. You guys got to work with the city as well, I would think. Is that?
Yeah, I think it's, one of the biggest things, and I appreciate, as soon as I came into this role, it was the first thing you kind of, held me accountable for. Like, what are we doing to move from Tier 1 status? Because when you look at Tier 1, yes, it's a formula at the Secretary of the Commerce level, but it's what people understand. But I will say the legislature could change that formula at any time. So I think it's more about how do we increase the prosperity of this community? How do we increase the individual wealth? How do we increase the opportunities that are here more than it's about? But Tier 1 is what's commonly known. So we'll just talk, but I appreciate the accountability piece. But one thing that I saw when I came into the county side is different, than the view I was looking at when I was in the state Senate, is that if we're going to grow population here, and we're going to grow industry here, you have to have infrastructure. You have to have water and sewer. And when you have key industrial corridors that lack that, Troy, and when you have key smaller municipal areas or parts of our county that don't have clean, safe, regulated drinking water access for residential growth, that's a problem. You're never going to get there. You're always going to be You're always going to be behind when it comes to the formula that's calculated. And more importantly, you're always going to be behind on, if I can't get industry here, I can't bring the level of jobs that we want outside of retail jobs to be able to create the type of wealth we want for and prosperity we want for our residents. And then we want them to live here because we've got good schools, we've got amenities, it's safe community. You kind of have to do all these things at once. So there's really not one lever you can flip to get that Tier 1 status. It's a constant move. And I will say that the county has a large role while we need to coordinate with our municipalities when, Hope Mills and Spring Lake and the city of Fayetteville are working on those public amenities, those parks and those types of amenities that are keeping people here, making it a quality of life, making it safe to live here in their municipalities. And they're working on that piece. We've got to create the infrastructure to be able to support the industry coming here, the business growth coming here, as well as the residential growth, and that takes infrastructure. And that was very glaring to me when I came in, which is why I've had such a direct focus and have put myself at the tip of the spear when it comes to pushing that forward and making sure that we have not just talk, but actual work and actionable things happening to move the growth of our infrastructure forward.
So I know there's an annual census, but do you guys get data on how things are flowing? Are people coming here, leaving?
So
what's going on?
One of the other reasons you see in that, and so one of the first things I did as a chair is I engaged the Secretary of Commerce, Department of Commerce at the state level. Now, I know Secretary Lilly, I had done some work with him when he was in the governor's office when I served in the state Senate, so we had a relationship, reached out to the Secretary of Commerce, reached out to the department and said, hey, help us understand this military transition, because we kind of take a lick a little bit on our population flow and our population numbers annually because of the transitional of our military. So you get military PCS every summer. You've got a large block of people that kind of come in and come out. And depending on when that snapshot's taken, you could be at one of those, kind of like the tide rolling in and out. You could be at one of those times where you could be at a low tide and have a lower population than when the snapshot was taken the year before, or based on the PCS moves. So one of the things that he did is he connected us with, and I connected with Robert Van Giens in our economic development side as well, is to look at their data section and department and how they were looking at that data and what the impact was and how we can, how the military was being impacted, whether it's on base in our county or off base within our communities, and how they're being counted. So that's a piece. We still don't have a great answer on it. We've kind of gone back and forth, and we haven't had a new snapshot. Well, they did just rank. They were released recently, and we still saw that we were still in the same tier. But we're still trying to work through making sure that the military aren't a hurting, the numbers of the permanent change of stations and the moves of the military aren't affecting our numbers in a negative way, or we have to factor them out and refactor them. But that still doesn't get to the fact of, we can say all that on the population, but if you don't have infrastructure, Troy, people aren't going to move here. If I don't have houses for people to move into, they're not going to move here. I mean, all you're going to do is just change people out.
True. Okay, so you talked about recreational things. Now, what have you learned since you've been chair and you've been on the board about the relationship between the city and the county when it comes to parks and recreation?
Yeah, we've got a lot of work to do there, and I think we are trying to work through our agreement. So the way that Parks and Rec is set up, the city of Fayetteville, the town of Hope Mills, they have their own Parks and Rec department. The city provides services to, you call it a joint Parks and Rec, but what it really is they're providing services to what we have as a taxing district for recreation. So all the county and all the municipalities have participated, through a resolution that they're part of the taxing district. And what happens in that area, so basically the entire county minus Fayetteville and Hope Mills, they are serviced through a service agreement by Fayetteville Parks and Recreation. So they take care of the parks, they maintain the parks, they do the new construction, they do those things. In each year, you're supposed to look at the new capital improvements, so the new construction that's going to happen, the new maintenance, any maintenance that's going to be done, and then just the day-to-day operations is what they handle. We've been working through trying to work a better agreement between the two bodies, between the city and the county represents the entire district and how it's serviced. And so we've been working through that for longer than I think both the mayor and I would want, Mayor Colvin and I would want. But there was a lot of details that we needed to work through, and I'm hopeful we'll get to that agreement here. I've asked to get some resolution before the end of this month so that we can look at how we're moving forward collectively and ensure there's accountability. We understand the clear cost of each facility. We understand the maintenance costs, the operational costs, but also some accountability around new construction projects and equity of the dollars that are being paid by the residents in that district.
Right. So, like you have the senior centers are run by Parks and Rec as well.
The senior centers are a city asset run by the Fayetteville Parks and Rec, run by the city,
right,
overseen by the city of Fayetteville.
So, are there senior centers outside of
No.
the city of Fayetteville?
No.
So then, I guess the expectation is then that all of Cumberland County, if you're a senior citizen, then if you wanted to utilize a senior center, then you would need to drive into the city of Fayetteville, correct?
That's correct. If you wanted to use that specific facility.
Right,
but again,
right.
that's not a district facility. So,
Okay.
the law is very clear on the dollars that are raised in the tax district, which I'll just call it the district, the
Correct.
recreational district.
Right.
Those dollars need to be spent in the district by the people that were paid the tax for it. So when you look at a park in Stedman,
Right.
You've got a municipal park that is a district asset that is paid for the maintenance, the operational costs, as well as any, I want to add a splash pad, for example, at this
Right.
park, then that is paid for from the district or the district tax or the district, as we call it.
Right.
It's a district asset.
I know they built a new park in Linden.
Right. That's an example of a district asset, a district park.
Right.
Whereas you look at Arnett Park would be considered a countywide asset. So it's not inside the district. It's used by, it's inside the district just from geographical, but it's used by everybody across the county. So that's a county level asset.
So like
and that's part of what we've been trying to work through, trying to get some clarity and some accountability around all the different parks assets that are across Cumberland County that are either in Fayetteville or in Cumberland County outside of Hope Mills. Hope Mills is its own Parks and Rec.
They do.
They control their own. The city has theirs, but the city's department has a responsibility through an interlocal agreement and a service agreement with the county to provide services to the recreational centers and parks in what I call the district, which is the parks district for the county.
Right. So like the walking trails and all of those, like on the north side, over there behind Methodist University, all of that.
Those are in the some of those are in the city, some of those are in the county.
Where if you're walking, you probably can be walking in the city and walking in the county on one
I
trail.
don't think so. I think most of those are and some of those are. You've got some state funding that are wrapped up in some of those trails. But when you look at the parks, there's a clear delineation when you look at all the parks that are across the city, all the parks that are in what I would call the county district, and then all the parks that are in Hope Mills, and then all the parks that are countywide.
Okay. Well,
it was, I think over the years when you have a 20, 25 plus year agreement, some things get blurry. And so one of the things that we clearly heard, at least the three of us that ran in District 2 in 2024, we clearly heard that there was residents felt they weren't receiving the level of service and equity that they were paying for. And so we've been very deliberate about, looking at that level of service, understanding, it's just over time, things get changed. COVID changed things, how we look at things, how we're doing, capital improvement approvals, how we're looking at maintenance, how we're looking at operational things, and just things have changed over the years. So it's a fresh set of eyes looking at things, and I think it's good to update dated interlocal agreements and agreements. Those are the types of things you're supposed to look at.
Yeah, because when it joined, it became one thing.
Yeah, but that was just a consolidation. So once that, after that first couple years, those employees are city employees now. So, but they're still, that entity, that department is providing services to, to a county district,
right,
to a taxing district, just like the city provides a service out to Fort Bragg for waste or the interlocal agreement they may have with Fort Bragg.
Right.
So it's an interlocal agreement with a services agreement. That's all it is in simple terms. The consolidation happened a long time ago.
It
is a department that is run by the city manager. He's got direct responsibility for Michael Gibson. Michael Gibson is a Parks and Rec director, and I guess right now is an acting assistant city manager. And I don't want to get into city business because I'm not the mayor. I want to stay at the county. But, he works for the city manager.
Right.
His responsibility to us is through an interlocal agreement and a services agreement, which we are looking to update. I'll put it that way. You've got an old agreement with a lot of dated information in it, and it needs to be updated, and we need to put some cleaner accountability procedures in place to ensure that the county residents' voices are being heard, that we heard, and some of the concerns that they had.
Sure. Well,
which is our job, correct,
sure,
Troy?
Right. We got about 5 minutes left. I'm being distracted a little bit. This guy walks in with his little Knicks shirt on. I didn't turn my head. I could see it out the corner of my eye. I knew that was meant for me. But we'll see what happens after tomorrow night, Reverend Paul.
Here we go.
Did it? Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay. PCS is permit change of station. Okay, all right, yeah. That's
sorry
right.
about that.
Right, yeah. That's true.
I think I said that people move in and out. I didn't say.
Yeah. Right. That's what I'm saying. Right. But no. So I understand all that, and I understand where you guys are headed, and what you're attempting to do. I think I have greater clarity now with what the county is attempting to do than I ever have. I was sharing with someone over the weekend. Well, first of all, we've never had a chairman to come in the studio and sit down and talk and explain stuff to us. You know what I mean? And
I appreciate the opportunity, but also, also know that I told you day one when I kind of came into this role. The thing I know about you, Troy, is we may be friends, but you're going to hold me accountable when we're on the air, because you're representing, the constituency of this radio station and of this community, and of this, WIDU family and the listeners, and you should be able to ask me the hard questions, and you should have elected officials come in here and tell you the good and the bad, and I think that's important that we do, and to take questions and to break things down in simple terms.
Right. And I know that Ms. McDonald appreciates you. She was a part of that. Whatever the county thing was they were doing to take patients to their dialysis.
It's the rural transportation program.
Transportation. And she called up. She was on a live line and saying that, funding was cut. They were told they would not be able to take them to the appointments for the month of June. That was great concern to me. Yeah. I had gone to Reverend Carl, and he and I were talking that if the county failed, then I guess we need to call some churches up with these church buses. But you took care of that. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. And,
Well, but I think that's the importance of interacting with the citizens and being either getting that feedback or being accessible to our community to be able to highlight those issues. And we actually had that issue. I think I told you that we had the issue last year. So we're seeing a redundant issue, and it's because the funding stream runs out.
Right.
And so we have to be creative in how we move the dollars around to make sure that critical program. But that's another opportunity that, where the city of Fayetteville and the county could work together. They've got a great FAST system. We could look to partner with them and let them take that program over, just like we could have conversations around how we do community development, and do you have one department or two departments? I think there's a lot of opportunities to do that. But we've stumbled a little bit in some of our delays on working through our 911 as well as some of this Parks and Rec. I wouldn't say stumble. It's just been a little slower process than I think both the Mayor Colvin and I would want. But I think there's a lot of opportunities to look at how you blend those resources, because we've got to make sure those resources are stretched as far as we can stretch. And that's a perfect example where the resources ran out. They ran out last year because I heard it from somebody different, because I was able to go into my email, find where the county manager helped fix the issue, and I just went back and said, hey, this is happening again. Here's the issue. And we immediately fixed it again. But that's a perfect example of a need in the community that's being used, that we need to make sure the resources are consistent.
But I just don't like them upsetting these people, putting them under stress. Like, you call them up and you say you can't go to, but look, you got to go to dialysis.
Yeah. 3
days a week.
I agree.
You have to. You can't miss it.
I agree.
mean, you create that kind of stress in people's lives.
I agree.
You didn't do it, I didn't do it, but still,
that's where we got to make sure there's resources there, and the customer service side on, also, one of the things I talked to the county manager about is, when the staff hears that, that the resources are there, flag that back up to us. Make sure it comes all the way back up to at least his level, so that he's aware of it, so we can make some adjustments if we need to.
Right. Well, look, we got a minute left. The last comments are left to you, sir.
Just want to make sure that people, we had 2 public hearings yesterday with the budget. Want to make sure that people take the opportunity, email us. You can go on the website, cumberlandcountync.gov. You can see all the budget documents, but you can also email all the commissioners at one time. If you've got things that are priorities to you, you have concerns about the budget, whatever it is, get your voice in while we're making these decisions. It's important that you do that. These are your tax dollars. We've got coffee with the commissioners coming up in multiple locations. We're in Wade tonight, just trying to be on that side of the community and give the opportunity for people to come out and share with us their concerns, or even maybe the positive side. It's always good to hear the positive side as well. But just want to encourage people to be involved in the budget process. Your tax dollars, your voice matters on how we're spending it. Are we doing the right things, investing in infrastructure, investing in our schools, investing in these things that we need to invest in? But give us your input, and it's always important.
Sure. Well, look, we're out of here. Father's Day is coming up on the third Sunday, and you can take Gray to a New York Knicks ball game.
Gray should be taking me for Father's Day.
I understand. Look, I know Reverend Powell's going, because I think it costs about $500,000 to get a seat up there, but he has it going on like that. You have it going on like that.
I don't know about that.
Y'all come back and tell me how it goes.
I
okay?
don't know about that.
Have a great rest of your day. Appreciate you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.